Hi, it's me, Soha.
Hi, it's me, Sierra.
And welcome back to Math Magicians, where math is a
magical path.
Today we're going to be learning about the
Let
me help you out, Sierra. Pythagorean theorem. So, what exactly is the Pythagorean theorem? Well, let's ask Sierra. What do you know about the Pythagorean theorem?
It involves a triangle with right angles.
Yes, now there's a bit more to that, but before we get started on teaching you guys how to solve a Pythagorean theorem problem, let's first see, what exactly is the Pythagorean theorem? It is a theorem that was created by a man named Pythagoras in 650 BC. So he's probably just like sitting in his room thinking of, how can I solve a right angle triangle? And then he just came up with the Pythagorean theorem. Well, this theorem can only be used for right angle triangles. And C is always the hypotenuse, which is always opposite to the right angle. So that is the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so before we get more into the complex word problem solving, let's get started with the
Basics.
Okay, can you explain to us, Sierra?
There are 4 steps that you need to know to learn the Pythagorean theorem. First one is to label the triangle. Second one is to write the equation out. Third one is to sub in for A, so pretty much just substitute for a letter. And the fourth and final one is solve it.
Okay, so let's get started on solving this very basic equation. Over here, me and Sierra have drawn a right angle triangle. Now, the reason why we have this square over here is because it now identifies that this is a 90-degree angle, also known as a right angle. First step, always make sure you have this written down because it really helps you. You can always refer back to it. Now, the first step we see here is label. So, as I mentioned earlier, C is always opposite to the right angle, and it is known as the hypotenuse. So let's go ahead and just label that C over there. And I'm gonna write here, for your guys' convenience, hypotenuse. So that we know that, and we can always look back to it when I explain. Now, it doesn't matter if this is A or B, or if this is A or if this is B. So let's just go ahead and label it. A and B. And now, usually when you get a simple word problem, when you're just starting out with the Pythagorean theorem, you're going to be given 2 measurements, and you usually have to find one of them. Mostly, to start off with the basics, it'll always be C. So let's say this is 5 meters, or centimeters, and let's say this is 3 centimeters. And so now we're stuck with the question, what is C? Well, let's figure that out. So our first step, let's check it off. We have labeled it. Now, our second step is to write the equation. Now, there's 3 different equations when solving a Pythagorean theorem. But in this case, this is our equation. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now, A squared basically just means squared. Squared means the number times itself. So A in this case is 5, which means 5 times 5. And plus, you guys already know, is addition. B, we know, is 3, so it's basically just 3 times 3 squared. And then this answer, or this equation, will give you C squared. That is one of the 3 equations that we have in the Pythagorean theorem. Now, write the equation. So we have that down. We're doing pretty good so far. Now, Sarah, do you want to take over? Let's see what you got.
So for the equation, since we already have the letter equation out, now you just go from here and do 5 squared plus 3 squared equals, and we don't know what C squared is yet, so.
Okay guys, so now we have written it down. So sub in for 8, that step, check. So now we have 3 of our steps done. This is step 1, this was step 2, this was step 3. Now let's move on to the last and final step, which is step 4. Okay, over here we have 5 squared plus 3 squared equals x squared. Now the reason why it's not C squared anymore is because we don't know exactly what C is. So we're just gonna leave it as x. That's typical math form when you don't know an answer to an equation or to a problem. So let's get started. For 4, this is where it gets a bit complex, but it's still very easy. 5 squared, as I mentioned before, is just 5 times 5, or the number times itself. So 5 times 5 is what, Sierra?
25.
Great job. So 25, and then 3 times 3. Can you tell us that, Sierra?
9.
Okay, so plus 9. Now, do we know x yet? No. So, equals x squared. Now, let's see what 25 plus 9 is. 25 plus 9. Let me think about it. That's 34. So now we need to find the square root of 34. So, you guys probably have learned this by now. This is the square root sign. It's written down. That basically just means we have to find the square root of 34. Can you tell us what that is, Sierra?
That answer to the square root is 5.83.
Okay, so now we're gonna draw 3 dots. Now you may be asking or wondering, what are these 3 dots? This is a therefore statement in math. You do not write therefore, comma, and continue on with your sentence. This is a therefore statement in math that you have to put at the end of every equation that you have solved. And then you put the equal sign. 5.83. Now, we have solved it, but there's one more thing left. A lot of people get stuck at this part, or are confused, or just forget, or are not sure. You have to show how you got rid of the squared and how you got rid of the square root. You just simply have to cross it out so it shows. Otherwise, it would still have to be in your equation. Okay, so Sierra helped us out with the answer, but how exactly did she get it? You could use a calculator, but let's explain it. For example, you don't have a calculator. Over here, you must cross out 2 and square root, but you're not done yet. You have to show how. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other side before the equal sign or wherever it is. But you have to do it to both sides in math. So, when you calculate the square root, it automatically cancels out the 2 because you're not going to square it anymore. And then, as I mentioned before, you're going to put your therefore statement, and math, there is no therefore, comma. This is a symbol that you use in math stating that, therefore, this is the answer to my equation. You put your equal sign, 5.83. Now, let's move back here. Solve it. Let's check that off. Now, you should know how to basically do the Pythagorean theorem. It's as simple as that. Okay, so since we're like super smart kids and we really care about what we do, we decided that we'd make our very own word problem. So let's read it. Soha and Sierra are best friends, right?
Yeah.
Today, they decide to meet up. Soha needs to cross the street to Sierra's apartment building door, which is right here, which is also the golden ticket.
What is the distance between Sierra and Soha? How many meters does Soha have to get to the door? Right down here.
Yeah, so how many meters do I have to walk to get to the door? Now, the first question we have to answer is, what is the distance between Sierra and Soha? But before I move on, I need to say something. Sierra did a horrible job at drawing these stick figures.
You drew them.
No, you did. Okay, camera girl, come here, judge this.
It is pretty bad. And that one looks like Riding Hood.
So maybe I did draw it, but it's okay. So, the first question is, what is the distance between Sierra and Soha? Now let's figure that out. The distance is this dotted line right here. So this is the distance, because this is Sierra right here. So let's write it down. So this is Sierra right there. This right here is me, Soha. Hi. I look really good at that, right? Okay, so, at the end, once we solve the Pythagorean theorem question, we're gonna write it down. Therefore, this is the distance between us. But this is the real question. Can you please read it, Sierra?
How many meters does Soha down here have to walk to get to the door right here?
Okay, so let's figure that out. Okay, so to solve this problem, let's go back to the basics. Let's look at our first step, which is label. First thing, we're gonna draw the triangle. It doesn't have to be perfect. So let's write step 1. Now, we can draw a triangle. Here we go. And once again, you always have to make sure that it is a right-angled triangle. There. So we can identify that this is a right-angled triangle, meaning it is 90 degrees. And therefore, that means that C, which is the hypotenuse. Okay, so we know that the 90-degree angle is right here, which means C, which is also known as the hypotenuse, will always be opposite. So let's just write that down for us to always refer back to hypotenuse. Okay, now we can look over here at the actual word problem and see where everything is labeled. So we know that this side is 20 meters and it is the letter A. So we can write A, which is 20 meters. And also for C, we see that it is 31 meters. Now, let's check B. Let's label that. And let's see the measurement. Well, we don't have the measurement for that because we're going to solve it now. So for now, we'll leave that blank. Now, I'll let Sierra continue on and write the equation.
So here are different types of equations, but since we don't know B, we're going to use this one. You see? Alright, let's go back over here. And to help us out, we're going to write the equation with the letters in it first. So that's B squared. We got the B squared, and now we need C squared and A squared. So C squared minus A squared, which
Okay, so now we're going to look back here at our third step. Sub in for A. Sub is a short form for substitute, so we have to put the numbers instead of the letters. So the first thing is, this is the only thing that will remain as the letter because we don't know it yet. And the reason why we don't write B is because we don't know B yet. And in math form, we always use X as mentioned before in the basics. Then we follow the same format as the equation, making sure that our equal signs are lined up. Equals. So now let's find out what C is. So we look over here, it is 31 meters. It's gonna be 31 meters. Is that it, Sierra?
No, I think you're missing something.
Let me see. Oh, I forgot the square. Always make sure you write that down because you did not solve it yet. Now, we just follow the exact same thing. We put the subtraction sign. And now let's go to A, find that out, which is 20 meters. And as Sierra mentioned, it's not done yet, so it's going to be squared. Now, I'm gonna let Sierra take over and help us solve this equation out.
For the final step is solve it. So what you're gonna do, since we still don't know what B is, you're gonna do X squared, and always make sure your equal signs are lined up so it's more organized and easier, like, okay. Now you're gonna solve it, 31 squared. So if you have a calculator like this, it's pretty easy. So you go type in 31 squared equals, and it's 961. So that gives you your answer, 961 minus, and now you do that again, but for 20. So 20 squared equals 400. So that is that.
Okay, so I'm back, and now we're going to continue on. So we still don't know what X is yet, so we're still gonna write X squared, again making sure our equal signs are lined up. So now we're gonna figure out what 961 minus 400 is. Let's punch that into our calculator. So that'd be 961 minus 400 equals 561. Okay, now that we have 561, we need to find the square root of X and 561. Because whatever we do to one side in math, we also do to the other side. And now, we're going to put in the square root. Question is 23.7.
Yay! You never thought we'd see the...
Now let's do a therefore statement. So you do the 3 little dots. Therefore, the distance between, where do we go? Between Soha.
We have to redo this.
I can't.
We can't redo it. She already read it. Continue.
Soha and the door is 23.7 meters.
And that is how you solve the Pythagorean theorem with the math magician. And don't forget that math is a
Magical math!
Bye!